The amphitheater fell silent. Professor Zyron stood motionless on the central platform, his luminous sapphire blue skin glowing softly in the harsh overhead light. His intricate bioluminescent markings flowed across his arms and shoulders like liquid mercury, pulsing with steady cyan radiance. He looked down at the assembled students of the Galactic Academy with an expression of controlled expectation. His pointed crystalline ears refracted the light into subtle rainbow patterns as he tilted his head slightly. "The Beast Challenge," he said calmly, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of tradition, "is not a game. It is not a test of mere physical strength. It is a test of tactical mastery, adaptive learning, and absolute resolve." Behind him on a massive platform sat Grathor. The Krog Beast was an absolute study in barely contained violence. Over 12 feet tall, it sprawled across the reinforced steel platform with the casual arrogance of something that had never faced defeat. Its body was covered in jagged black volcanic armor that looked like it had been forged in the heart of a dying star. The armor was split by glowing orange magma-like cracks that pulsed with internal heat and luminescent energy. Each crack seemed to hold liquid fire. Its blazing amber eyes were fixed on the assembled students with predatory intelligence. Its mouth was filled with razor-sharp teeth that glinted like weapons. Its foreclaws on each hand could tear through reinforced steel as easily as paper. Its thick muscular tail ended in a blade-like edge that had cleaved through academy training equipment countless times. "For 7 years," Zyron continued, "no student has volunteered to face Grathor. For 7 years this beast has remained undefeated. It has adapted to every combat style. It has learned from every opponent. It understands tactical progression and counter-strategy. It is," and here Zyron paused for effect, "the ultimate test of worthiness." The amphitheater was packed with students representing a dozen alien species. Sitting in the front tier was Kale Vex, the highest-ranked combat student in Academy history. His dark crimson scales seemed to glow under the artificial lighting. His emerald green eyes were fixed on Grathor, with an intensity that suggested he was running combat calculations in his mind. His bone crest ran from his forehead down the back of his head in perfect white ridges, marked with ceremonial scratches from his numerous victories. Even Kale, the most decorated fighter in the academy, sat perfectly still. In the observation booth high above the amphitheater, Naira Tal sat before an advanced terminal interface. Her luminous silver-lavender skin, traced with brilliant violet energy patterns, seemed to glow softly in the dim booth lighting. Her piercing amethyst eyes scanned data streams that only she could fully comprehend. She was analyzing Grathor's combat patterns, predicting probabilities, calculating weaknesses. Her violet bioluminescent markings pulsed steadily as information flowed through her enhanced mind. She had never seen a student volunteer for this challenge and not regret it within moments. "I am now requesting volunteers," Zyron said formally. He extended one elegant hand toward the assembly. His bioluminescent markings pulsed with anticipation. "Who among you possesses the courage to face the legendary Grathor?" Silence flooded the amphitheater, not a whisper, not a rustling of clothing, not a single movement. The students stared forward with expressions ranging from fear to deep respect for Grathor's power. Everyone understood that volunteering meant almost certain defeat. Everyone understood that Grathor would not stop until victory was assured. Everyone understood that this was not a test they wanted to attempt. Zyron waited. His cyan eyes swept across the assembled students. His crystalline ears twitched slightly in what might have been disappointment or satisfaction. Silence like this was expected. Silence like this was acceptable. Then a distant crash echoed through the academy corridors outside the amphitheater. Then another crash, louder, closer. Then the sound of someone running at full speed, their footsteps echoing off polished floors. Then the sound of something very large and very expensive breaking. Kale's emerald eyes narrowed with curiosity. Neera's violet markings began pulsing slightly faster as her analytical systems registered an anomaly. Zyron's bioluminescent markings flickered with uncertainty. Grathor's magma cracks flared slightly brighter, responding to the disruption. The archway entrance to the amphitheater exploded inward as a human girl crashed through it at full velocity. Her momentum was entirely uncontrolled. Her dark auburn hair streamed behind her like a flag. Her beautiful hazel eyes were wide with the specific panic of someone who had just realized she was going to be extremely late to something important. Her athletic frame was dressed in hastily thrown-on academy attire that was partially zipped and clearly inside out on one side. She hit a decorative ceremonial stand that had been positioned near the entrance specifically to commemorate past Beast Challenge victors. The stand shattered like it was made of glass. Pieces of it scattered across the amphitheater floor, skidding into the seating areas. Several alien students jumped back from the falling debris. The human girl did not stop. She had momentum and gravity working against her, but not for her. She skidded across the polished floor like she was on ice. Her feet had completely lost contact with any concept of traction. She was sliding. She was heading directly toward the central platform where Zyron stood. Zyron's entire body went rigid. His bioluminescent markings flared bright white. His pointed crystalline ears flattened back against his head. His cyan eyes dilated impossibly wide. For the first time in recorded academic history, Professor Zyron appeared genuinely shocked by something. The human girl was not slowing down. "Professor, I am so incredibly sorry. I was in the library archives and I lost track of time, and then I couldn't find the lecture hall because the navigation system said this was building 7, but I thought we were in building 3. And then I ran up what I thought was the correct stairwell, but it turned out to be a maintenance shaft. And then," she gasped for breath, while still sliding forward with absolutely no ability to stop, "I fell approximately 15 feet into a recycling bin, which was very wet, and then I had to find new clothes, and I am so sorry." She was still sliding. She was going to hit Zyron. She was going to hit the platform. She was going to crash directly into academic chaos. Then Naira's voice came through the communication system, cutting through the amphitheater with perfect clarity. "Platform is clear for emergency stop protocol," Naira announced from the observation booth. The arena impact panels near the central platform suddenly activated. They rose up at an angle, creating a soft barrier that caught the sliding human girl and brought her to an extremely undignified stop. She tumbled forward slightly and ended up on her knees directly in front of Professor Zyron, breathing heavily, her hazel eyes now filled with mortification. The amphitheater remained completely silent. Zara Kane took a moment to compose herself. She brushed volcanic dust from her hastily assembled clothing. She looked up at the assembled alien students. She looked at Professor Zyron's shocked expression. She looked at Kalevex in the front tier, whose emerald eyes were narrowing with what might have been amusement. She looked at the massive form of Grathor on the elevated platform, whose magma cracks were pulsing with curiosity. "I am so sorry for being late," Zara said, pulling herself to her feet. "I'm ready for class now. Shall we begin?" Zyron stared at her. His bioluminescent markings were still flickering with shock. His crystalline ears were still flattened. He seemed to be processing what had just happened in some sort of analytical loop. Finally, he spoke. Student Zyron said slowly, "What is your name?" "Zara Kane, sir," she said, still brushing dust from her clothes. "First year General Studies. Again, I sincerely apologize for the dramatic entrance. It wasn't intentional." "You are?" Zyron said carefully, aware that you have just interrupted the Beast Challenge selection ceremony. Zara's hazel eyes widened. She looked around at the hundreds of assembled alien students. She looked at the observation booth. She looked back at Zyron. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't realize there was a ceremony happening. Should I wait outside? I can go back out and come back in properly. I could probably find a different entrance." Zyron's bioluminescent markings pulsed in rapid succession. This was not a normal response to any situation he had ever encountered. "Student Kane," Zyron said carefully, "do you understand what the Beast Challenge is?" Zara looked at the massive form of Grathor. She took in the jagged black volcanic armor, The glowing magma cracks, the razor-sharp teeth, the claws that looked like weapons. She seemed to be making some sort of calculation in her mind. "Is it some kind of presentation?" she asked. "Like where we watch trained fighters demonstrate combat techniques?" Kale Vex's scales paled slightly. His emerald eyes blinked once in what could only be described as genuine shock. "No, Student Kane," Exiron said, his voice taking on the careful tone of someone explaining something extremely obvious to someone extremely dense. "The Beast Challenge is a voluntary combat engagement where a student faces Grathor in single combat. Grathor is a Krog Beast. For 7 years, no student has been brave enough or foolish enough to volunteer." Zara turned to look directly at Grathor. The beast's magma cracks flared slightly brighter, responding to her gaze. Its amber eyes focused on her with the intelligence of something that could analyze and adapt to any threat. Its massive claws scraped against the platform it was standing on. "That sounds," Zara said slowly, "like it would be very dangerous." "Extremely dangerous," Xiron confirmed. "Probably something I'm not trained for at all," Zara continued. "Certainly something you are not trained for," Xiron agreed. "And definitely something that could result in very serious injury if I attempted it without any preparation whatsoever," Zara said. "Without question, the most dangerous physical endeavor you could possibly undertake," Xiron said. There was a pause. The entire amphitheater held its breath. Zara Kane raised her hand. The gesture was simple. Her hand went up. Her hazel eyes still held traces of confusion. Her beautiful face still showed uncertainty. But her hand was definitely raised. She was definitely volunteering. Xiron's bioluminescent markings flared white again. This time the flare was even more intense. His crystalline ears flattened completely against his head. His elegant form seemed to become even more rigid. "Student Kane," Xiron said very slowly, "do you understand what you have just volunteered for?" "I thought I was volunteering to participate in the presentation," Zara said apologetically. "But based on what you just said, I'm now realizing that might not be what this is." Neera's violet markings pulsed rapidly in the observation booth. Her analytical systems were processing something genuinely unpredictable. Her amethyst eyes had narrowed with sudden, intense interest. Kale Vex stood up. His dark crimson scales flushed slightly darker, his emerald eyes fixed on Zara with complete focus. His bone crest seemed to stand slightly more rigid. "You are not serious," Kyle said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute confidence. "This human is clearly confused. She has no combat training. She has no armor. She has no weapons. She has no tactical knowledge whatsoever." "All of those observations are accurate," Xiron said calmly, though his markings continued to pulse with agitation. "Student Kane, you understand that you have volunteered for a combat challenge against Grathor, the legendary undefeated Krog Beast?" Zara looked at Grathor again. The beast was watching her with intense intelligence. Its magma cracks pulsed with what might have been curiosity. It had faced hundreds of trained warriors. It had adapted to every combat style known to the galaxy. It had never faced anything like a human girl who didn't understand what she was volunteering for. "Yes," Zara said simply, "I want to participate in the Beast Challenge." The amphitheater erupted in whispers. Hundreds of alien students leaned toward each other, speaking in languages that ranged from melodic chiming sounds to deep resonant rumbles. Kale's scales flushed darker, with what could only be described as shock mixed with contempt. Neera's violet markings pulsed faster, her analytical systems running probability calculations on a scenario that appeared to have no logical outcome. Grathor stood up on its platform. The massive beast stretched its body to its full 12 feet of height. Its magma cracks flared brilliant orange. It was readying itself for combat. And Zara Kane, still partially covered in dust from her crash through the amphitheater entrance, was about to become either the most brilliant strategist or the most foolish volunteer in Academy history. "Very well," Xiron said, his voice carrying the weight of resignation. His bioluminescent markings had settled into a steady white glow. "We will proceed. Student Kane, You will report to the preparation chamber immediately. You will be fitted with standard combat armor. You will be given basic briefing on arena safety protocols. And here Zara paused. You will face Grathor. 40 minutes later, Zara found herself in the preparation chamber. The small rectangular room was barely 15 feet long and 10 feet wide. Soft blue emergency lighting from floor-level strips created an eerie glow that made everything look slightly underwater. Equipment racks lined both walls, filled with armor pieces, weapons, and safety devices that Zara had absolutely no idea how to use. Standing across from her was Nira Tal. The strategist's luminous silver-lavender skin seemed to glow in the dim light. Her brilliant violet energy patterns pulsed steadily as she studied Zara with those piercing amethyst eyes. She had come down from the observation booth. She had come to see this human volunteer in person. "You understand that what you have volunteered for is essentially suicide," Nira said, her voice calm and measured. "My analytical systems cannot generate a single outcome where you defeat Grathor. My predictive models show a 97% probability of severe injury within the first 30 seconds of engagement. What about the other 3%? Zara asked, while a mechanical arm carefully fitted a chest plate of reinforced polymer around her torso. Nira's violet markings pulsed slightly faster, her amethyst eyes narrowed. "Complete unpredictability," Nira said. "Scenarios where the outcome cannot be calculated because they violate fundamental principles of tactical combat. Scenarios where an untrained combatant engages a legendary beast in ways that defy logical analysis." Zara smiled at Nira. It was a smile that carried genuine warmth despite the fact that she was about to walk into an arena with something that could kill her with a single blow. "So there's a chance," Zara said. Nira's violet markings pulsed in what might have been amusement. "Technically, there is always a chance," Nira said. "However, the probability is so statistically insignificant that it barely registers as a possibility." The mechanical arm finished fitting the chest plate. A second mechanical arm began working on the leg armor. Zara looked down at herself. She was slowly being transformed into a combat-ready warrior. Except she was not remotely combat-ready. She had never thrown a punch in her life. She had never wielded a weapon. She had never engaged in anything remotely resembling tactical fighting. "Nira," Zara said carefully, "can I ask you something?" "You may," Nira said. "Why did you come down here? You could have stayed in the observation booth. You could have watched from there. Why did you want to meet me in person?" Nira was quiet for a moment. Her violet bioluminescent patterns pulsed slowly as she appeared to be accessing some sort of internal analytical framework. "Because," Nira said finally, "in all my years of strategic analysis, I have never encountered someone whose actions defy prediction so completely. Every trained fighter can be analyzed. Every experienced warrior follows patterns. Every tactical mind operates within calculable parameters. But you," and here Nira paused, tilting her head slightly, "you are a variable I cannot account for. You are essentially a living anomaly." "Is that a compliment?" Zara asked. "It is an observation," Nira said. "Whether it becomes a compliment depends entirely on what happens in the next hour." The mechanical arms completed the armor fitting. Zara looked down at herself. She was now covered in reinforced polymer plates of midnight blue with silver threading that matched Nira's natural markings. She looked like a warrior, she just didn't feel like one. A final mechanical arm extended toward her, holding a weapon. It was a staff with a blade at each end, balanced for combat. The metal gleamed under the blue emergency lighting. Zara stared at it. "I've never used one of these," she said honestly. "No," Nira agreed. "Your training records indicate you have never used any weapon whatsoever. Should I be concerned about that?" "Extremely," Nira said. "However, you are already committed to this course of action. The blade staff is a standard academy weapon. It is balanced for combat techniques you have not learned. However, it is also relatively difficult to use incorrectly in ways that would immediately kill you. It is designed for maximum forgiveness of inexperience." Zara grasped the weapon. It was heavier than she expected. The weight was off-center. It felt completely wrong in her hands. "This is insane," she said. "I don't know what I was thinking. I should withdraw. I should tell Zyron I made a mistake." "You could," Nira said. "That would be the logical choice." "But I'm not going to," Zara said. "No," Nira agreed. "You are not going to, because you possess something that none of the trained fighters have. You possess the ability to do something completely unexpected." Through the transparent wall of the preparation chamber, Zara could see the containment arena. It was enormous. The massive circular space was lit by dim amber lighting that cast long shadows across the reinforced floor. Scattered throughout the arena were structural pillars that had probably been designed for tactical positioning. The walls were scarred and marked from previous battles. This was a space designed for maximum combat engagement. This was where she was about to face Grathor. Zara took a deep breath. She held the blade staff in both hands. She looked at Nira with hazel eyes that were determined despite being completely terrified. "Wish me luck," Zara said. "Luck is not a variable I include in my calculations," Nira said. "However, I am now genuinely curious to see what happens. That is something I have not felt in quite some time." Nira extended one elegant hand toward the arena entrance. Her violet markings pulsed softly. Zara Kane walked toward the arena. She was still partially covered in dust from her crash through the amphitheater entrance. Her armor was unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Her weapon felt completely wrong in her hands. She had no training, no strategy, and absolutely no idea what she was about to face, which was probably exactly why she was about to do something completely impossible. The containment arena was exactly as large and intimidating as it had looked through the transparent wall. Zara stepped onto the reinforced floor and felt it shift slightly under her weight, responding to pressure sensors. The dim amber lighting made everything look somehow more dangerous. Grathor was already there. The massive Krog Beast was positioned on the opposite side of the arena, standing in a relaxed stance. Its magma cracks were pulsing with steady orange light. Its amber eyes were fixed on Zara with absolute focus and predatory intelligence. Zyron stood in the observation booth high above the arena. His bioluminescent markings were steady cyan, his composure apparently restored. But his crystalline ears were still slightly flattened. "The Beast Challenge will now commence," Zyron announced, his voice echoing through the arena. "Student Zara Kane, you are committed to single combat with Grathor. Combat will end when one party cannot continue. Observers are standing by for emergency medical protocols." Emergency medical protocols. That was probably a sign that something was very likely to go catastrophically wrong. Zara raised her blade staff. It was supposed to be in a defensive stance. She had once seen something that looked vaguely like this in an ancient Earth film. The weight distribution felt completely wrong. Grathor took a step forward. Just one step. But it was a step that shook the arena floor. Vibrations ran through the reinforced concrete. The magma cracks in its armor flared brighter orange. The legendary beast was commencing combat, and Zara Kane, standing in the center of the arena with a weapon she didn't know how to use, armor that felt completely alien and absolutely no combat training whatsoever, was about to discover that sometimes the greatest advantage you can have is not knowing enough to be afraid of what you're facing. She raised her blade staff higher. She took a breath. She waited for Grathor to attack. What happened next would either define her as the most brilliant combatant in Academy history or would result in her becoming the shortest Beast Challenge engagement ever recorded. Grathor charged across the arena. The massive beast moved with predatory speed, its magma cracks flaring brilliant orange-red. Its claws scraped concrete, leaving scorch marks. This was something that had defeated hundreds of trained warriors. Zara panicked and ran sideways. Her movement was completely illogical. A trained fighter would have positioned themselves tactically, Zara simply bolted left like someone terrified. Grathor's first strike hit empty space where she had been standing. The beast's claws tore through reinforced concrete like tissue paper, creating a crater. Grathor paused, its amber eyes narrowed, its magma cracks flickered with confusion. The beast had adapted to every tactical response from trained fighters, but it had never faced someone who simply ran away in panic. Zara kept running toward a structural pillar and slammed her back against it, breathing heavily. Grathor charged again, claws extended, jaw open, magma cracks pulsing orange. Zara thrust her blade staff forward blindly. The staff struck Grathor directly in one of its blazing amber eyes. The beast shrieked. The sound was deafening and echoed through the entire arena. Grathor's magma cracks flared white-hot. Blood glowed orange-red as the beast reared backward. Zara had actually hurt the legendary undefeated beast, completely by accident. Neera's violet markings pulsed rapidly in the observation booth. Her analytical systems were still unable to predict what would happen next. Kale Vex's scales shifted color with genuine interest. He was witnessing something unprecedented. Grathor recovered and charged again, but more cautiously this time. The beast was adapting. The beast was trying to understand this unpredictable opponent. Zara did something completely stupid. She dropped her blade staff. When Grathor rushed toward her, she jumped straight up. Her athletic form cleared the beast's claws, and she landed on Grathor's back. Her fingers scraped volcanic armor for purchase as she grabbed the ridge of the beast's spine. Grathor went berserk. The creature spun violently in circles, roaring, its magma cracks flaring through every color from orange to white. Zara bounced desperately against the volcanic armor, hanging on for her life. Then the arena's emergency containment system activated. Overhead fixtures sparked wildly, sending electrical discharge through the arena. Grathor's magma cracks flared white-hot and the beast stopped spinning, shrieking in pain. Grathor reared up on its hind legs to throw Zara off. She let go, flying through the air directly toward a structural pillar. She slammed into it hard enough to knock all air from her lungs and slid down the concrete to the arena floor. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She was utterly defeated. Grathor stood over her, heaving, its magma cracks glowing erratically. The beast looked down at the human girl lying on the concrete. Then Zara sneezed. Dust from the arena had gotten into her nose. Her body reacted instinctively. The explosive air from her sneeze hit Grathor's injured eye. The beast shrieked in pain and reared backward, stumbling. It crashed sideways into one of the structural pillars. The pillar collapsed. Concrete shattered. Dust erupted. The structural support gave way completely. Grathor was pinned under the fallen debris. The beast was not dead or severely injured, but the beast was trapped, utterly defeated by complete accident. Zara slowly pulled herself to her feet, covered in dust and concrete powder. She looked at the pinned beast, at Xiron in the observation booth whose bioluminescent markings flickered white and cyan alternately, at Kale Vex whose scales had shifted to a color suggesting grudging respect. Neera's voice came through the communication system. Beast challenge concluded. Student Kane, you have defeated Grathor through completely unpredictable and statistically impossible means. You are hereby declared champion of the Beast Challenge. The amphitheater erupted. Hundreds of alien students were on their feet, making sounds of amazement in a dozen different languages. Kale Vex stared at Zara with emerald eyes that had shifted from contempt to genuine respect. Zara Kane, the human girl who had crashed into the ceremony by complete accident, had somehow defeated the legendary undefeated Krog Beast through pure chance, illogic, and statistical impossibility. She smiled at Neera through the observation booth window. Did that count as luck? Zara asked. That, Neera said, her violet markings pulsing steadily for the first time, counted as something my analytical systems have no framework to understand, which I find remarkably satisfying.